listening to Europe's #1 pro wrestling podcast.
Set no substitutes.
Bringing you the best in pro wrestling interviews, news, and opinions with Mr. Stevie Knight.
Hello, once again. Yes, it is me, Grapple fans, as Kent Walton used to say. I'm not Kent Walton, by the way. Did you know Kent Walton, when he finished doing the old World of Sport commentary, went into making, I wouldn't say pornographic movies, but semi-pornographic movies? Did you know that? Who'd have imagined that kind of thing? Not that I've ever watched any porn, obviously. Never. Honest gov. Never, ever, ever. Just a rehash once again then of last year's podcast, and this was... I say it's my favourite, more because I used to see this guy, Marty Jones, wrestling all the time at my local show in Cleethorpes, and also I remember him from the television as well. Had some absolutely amazing wrestling matches against the likes of Finlay, very famous for his feud with Marc Rollerball Rocco, and he was just tremendous. Dynamite Kid wrestled him a lot as well, and had an awesome match back in 1988 against the late great Owen Hart, which was definitely, if you've not seen that, one of the best matches I've ever seen. It is on YouTube, so track that one down. Marty Jones versus Owen Hart. Since recording this, Marty has had a rather large resurgence in the British wrestling scene. I know when he finished wrestling, he ran a pub and more or less disappeared from the wrestling scene. But since getting Facebook, I think, doing this interview about 18 months ago as well, I like to think maybe helped a little bit. Marty is just everywhere again now. He's the commissioner, different promotions and things, and even more importantly, what he loves to do. He loves to teach, pass on his knowledge to the next generation, and he's just opened an absolutely fantastic training school in Manchester. If you want to learn I don't like to say the old school way of wrestling. I think it's just the right way of wrestling. The basics absolutely are there. Little things that are missing nowadays. If you want to see examples of that, watch Marty Jones versus Finlay. The way they slap their hands away so they can't get hold of each other. All those kind of things that just don't seem to happen anymore. So if you want to get involved with that, all you need to do is contact Marty Jones. He's on Facebook, and he's got this fantastic Squared Circle Wrestling Academy. Whether you're a beginner or whether you've been wrestling for a while, I would certainly get yourself down there and learn some stuff you've probably never ever seen before. We're also going to get Marty Jones back on the show as well to talk about that and more things about his career, because the man has had an absolutely tremendous career. As you'll hear on this, he's been to Japan, he's been to Mexico. Just amazing. An amazing career. And this interview at the time got a lot of publicity, and a lot of people absolutely loved this. So take another listen. Recorded around 18 months ago. This was Marty Jones talking to me, and we start talking about if he even remembers me.
In fact, there's a poster on there today with me and you on.
There is, yeah. I started in 91, so I kind of caught the back end of when you guys had just come off TV. And
That's right,
I remember being absolutely petrified when you guys used to come in the changing rooms and things. So it's a big thing to me to kind of get the story of you guys before it disappears, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Well, I'm doing seminars now, and we're trying to bring it back. Danny's doing seminars, and we're trying to bring the old style back.
Absolutely. I think it's very important before it disappears, because otherwise it will be completely lost. So, Marty, obviously, if you don't mind me saying, you are 60 years old now, and you've been in the job an absolutely long time, and you did something that not a lot of people can lay claim to. You started with Billy Riley in the world-famous Snake Pit. How did you get started there?
Well, that's not quite true. Billy Robinson, who was my father's friend, he had a wrestling school in Failsworth, and with Billy Robinson being the name that he was, he had an amateur wrestling gym, and professional wrestling wasn't even allowed to be mentioned. And what happened as I progressed I started my amateur wrestling when I was 6 years of age. And how it started was, I was coming home from school. I was good at sports, but I wasn't the best at school. But what used to upset me, I had an accident when I was 6 years of age, where I was virtually blind in one eye. And then the old Milky Bar glasses came into force with the patch over the eye, and then the kids, like kids are at school, started taking the mickey. And I couldn't control my temper, so it was my father that took me down to the gym, to Billy Robinson's gym, to really control my temper, and that's how it all started. So I started wrestling under Billy Robinson, and then as I got older, I started winning a few British titles at amateur, and lo and behold, at one time, Billy Robinson, there was 11 weights in the amateur wrestling world, and we won 7 out of the 11 weights. That's how good Billy's gym was.
Yeah.
But like I say, professional wrestling was, the days of Mick McManus and Palo and all this, and you all thought it was a joke and this, that and the other, but I missed out. The year of the Munich Olympics, which I'm not quite sure, 68 I think or something like that, we got into the squad to go to Munich Olympics, and we wasn't picked. There was 11 weights, and there was only 4 Southerners, and the 4 Southerners got picked to go. And in them days, you had no sponsorship, as you well know. It was just like you had to find your own money. So Billy and my dad and all them said, we will get the money to send all the lads, but powers that be, they wouldn't let it, the Olympic Committee. So we didn't go, and that's when I decided to turn professional and see how well I could do at that game. And just before I turned professional, Billy Robinson took me to the world-famous Billy Riley's Snake Pit Gym, which is a sight to see. It's just, if I can try and explain it, in the old days you used to have a bit of gravel where you played football or kicked a baked bean tin about, and in the corner was a wooden shed. And that wooden shed had a padlock on it that you opened up, and then lo and behold, there was a mat and a nail for all your rusty jock straps and all the sweaty things, and there was a little oil burner in the corner, but that was the Snake Pit under Billy Riley. Now, Billy Robinson obviously trained there along with a lot of great, Billy Joyce, to mention a few, and Dempsey and all them, and it was pleasing for me. And to be fair, it was very daunting. You had to crap yourself when you went in, because Billy told me that what they used to do, they used to get like a nobody wrestle you, then somebody else a bit better, and somebody else a bit better, and then before you know it, you've had like 5 or 6 little contests, and you were knackered, and then their top lad had come on.
Yeah.
And then screw you, But I did quite well. I did well for myself, and next thing is, I decided I was going to turn professional. I got enough trophies, so I wanted to see what it was all about. And Billy wouldn't speak to me then. He actually went on his travels, and I went on mine, and I went down to Brighton Stadium, which you remember was in Bolton. And there was good lads there like Colin Johnson and Jack Robinson, who the cousin of Billy, Abe Ginsberg and people like that. And I started learning the pro job, and then before I knew it, my first baptism was when I was introduced into the ring at Brighton Stadium on a show. And you knowing the business yourself, Steve, and being a good pro like you was, I was stood and I was there with my little Lancashire badge on. I got introduced to the crowd, and then lo and behold, the top of the bill was the Black Diamonds. If you remember them, Abe Ginsberg and Eric Cutler went on with Burt Ryle and Vic Faulkner, who were the local heroes. And needless to say, the Black Diamonds actually went over on the Royal Brothers, and it all kicked off with the crowd. And I, with instinct, just helped the wrestlers, and that was a good baptism for me. And ever since then, I got my first match, which was at Connors Quay as a substitute, and I went on with Bobo Matu of all people, and I thought this wrestling was a lot of phoning, a load of crap, and I can honestly say he beat the living daylights out of me.
Yes.
And then the next night I went on with Tony Charles, who was a fantastic wrestler, and pardon my swearing, listeners, but he made me disappear up my own house.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. And then I'd only been in the professional business for 6 months, and then I got my first trip to Mexico. And once you're abroad, you get other wrestlers abroad, Germans, and they want to take you to their Germany, and then you go to America, and you did this and you did that. And like I say, wrestling's been very, very good to me. I'm struggling now with the old arthritis in the legs, but like I say, I'm still doing the seminars, but I've loads and loads of tales to tell. And I think before my days are up, I mean, I don't feel 60 at all, I'll be honest with you. But and we're losing the weight, I feel as though I could do a comeback if the old legs were right. But
you never know.
Yeah, well, that's it. You never know.
Let's hear some of those tales. When you got into the job, when you first started in the professional job, did the veterans try and help you, or did they give you a hard time and try and keep you out the job to keep their place?
A hard time, really, but a lot of wrestlers hadn't done what I'd done previous, like amateur Olympic wrestling. So I could hold my own anyway. But to learn the pro job, it takes two to tango, and I was, how can I put it, I wasn't a household name, I was a clean-cut Marty Jones type of thing, a Mike Marino type of wrestler, and unfortunately them people don't put asses on seats, so they wanted a mix of the gimmick men. And when they put me on with people like Palo, I just didn't like it at all. They weren't for me, and I slowly went out the back door with that because I used to be a bit awkward and scurf them about a bit. And then all of a sudden, while you had...
Just, Marty, if I can interrupt, for our friends listening abroad, describe a scurfing.
Scurfing is where you drag them around a little bit, make it hard for them and show them what it's all about. You know, not necessarily hurt them, but just let them show who the boss is. And you've heard the expression there, listeners, I didn't get a drink of water. In other words, we had them breathing out the backside, and they didn't want to do that 7 nights a week. So that's what scurfing's all about.
It is, yes, yeah. So tell us, so you was in Mexico after how many months in the pro game?
I'd only been in the pro game for about, I'd say a year.
Yeah, so that must have been quite a culture shock to get off to Mexico.
Yeah, but there was a guy, Steve Wright, who I was doing a bit of tagging with at the time. We started off as the Wonder Boys, and Steve went living in Germany. So it was when the German tournaments was on, they asked us to go. Now, Mexico, I went on my own, and yes, to fly out, a little trade secret to all these wrestlers that think it's great going to Mexico, the promoter used to say, right, you get your own fare there, and we'll pay your fare back. And 90% of wrestlers, young wrestlers, used to say, oh, that'll do for me. But you know the tale now, Steve, once you get there, if you're not good enough, they just don't give you any work. So you've got to find your own fare back. But lucky as it was, I should have gone for 6 weeks, and I ended up staying there for 6 months. And the good thing was that in that 6 months, in Mexico, wrestling was very, very popular. The finances, and it's very, very poverty-stricken Coventry. It used to cost like 10 pence to get into the wrestling, but you work your way up there because you work on a percentage of the gate. If you were top of the bill, you got more than the lads on the bottom of the bill. But my prize to fame is that I'd worked some matches with a very, very good wrestler called Pedro Aguayo.
Yes, yeah.
Now, Pedro Aguayo was their champion and a good amateur wrestler too. So we used to really get stuck into each other. And I can honestly say I've got all the pictures and I've got everything here. On the last night of the loser, I'd already beaten Pedro Aguayo for the title. And they'd thought of this match where in Mexico they do a hair match. And whoever loses, they have all their hair shaved off in the ring. So 5 minutes before I went into the ring, the promoter said, there's 60,000 people out there. And I can honestly say, well, I'll tell you the tale first. What he said was, your contract's now up, we want you back again, but is there any chance you're losing tonight? I said, that's the worst thing you could have said to me. Nobody ever tells me to win, lose, or draw. I'll do whatever I want to do. And if there's 60,000 people out there, I'll be winning. Now, Pedro Aguayo was a very good amateur wrestler as well. And if I said that we wrestled for over an hour, non-stop, that is the truth. And it was sweltering. And he did beat me. And the only reason why I respect